Okay, everyone, welcome back to episode 14 of Beyond the Headlines, where me and Steve take a look at the headlines of the week, or maybe in this case, only the headline of the week, and just chat
Mm,
about what the market is doing, what's really going on behind these as people who study technical analysis and data as opposed to anything else. Now, this is a really slow week and it happens in the market. I think everybody was just waiting for this Roaring Kitty stream that just happened. So I'm sure me and Steve will probably spend the bulk of it talking about what we saw there and what's happened to price since then. And then I've got some cool things that I grabbed from the internet that aren't really headlines, but they're interesting, I guess, narrative shifts that I'm seeing happening in the market that I think I was going to grab Steve's opinion on. So, first and foremost, the memes from this, I don't really have a headline here, but I have so many memes when talking about this that I'll bring some up here that are just absolutely hilarious. So again, for those who are living under a rock, you have uh, Roaring Kitty or Deep Value, as he was known on Reddit, who I think let me summarize the whole thing that happened, just in case somebody wasn't here for the original GameStop saga. So GameStop is a company that sells video games. You don't need to buy video games anymore from a store. You click a button, you download them. In fact, a lot of places you can't buy video games physically. You just can only buy them digitally. Then this guy came around and always just put out. He was a value investor, kind of like a Benjamin Graham or a Warren Buffett. He would just Reddit nerd that liked to read through balance sheets, and he would come up with companies that he thought were undervalued. And GameStop was one of those. And he had a two-part thesis for GameStop. One, it was shorted too much. And then two, if there could be a short squeeze, the company could raise money and then maybe turn its business around into something that uh, could make money, maybe go digital in some way and do something there when it came to the gaming space because they had the name recognition, um, and that was it. So step one happened a long time ago. We had a short squeeze, and they used that short squeeze to raise money. And then he kind of sailed off into the sunset for a while, made a 30 million, I believe, or so on his position. Came back about what 2 3 weeks ago, and just started tweeting memes. There was a whole bunch of people who read under, tried to decipher the memes and said, "Oh, this means this and that means this." But by then he had created such. There's movies made about the guy. The stream today I think peaked out at like 700,000 viewers. It was absolutely insane. Um, and I think a lot of people today were expecting some sort of big reveal about him being back now and he invested in the company and his positions are worth about 200 million. So massive, massive positions in the company. And all he did was one of his normal themes where he said, I still believe in the company. I believe that the fact that they were able to raise all of this capital off the back of these stock pumps that happened and off of the back of retail means they're in a good cash position. And I believe that the CEO, Ryan Cohen, is going to find a way to turn this cash into something that the company can do in the future. So that's kind of the summary behind it. Again, I can show you the chart, but all it does is show every time that he's kind of tweeted something cryptic, people pile into the stock and then it just sells back down. So really, if we take a look at the year to date return right here, it's up 75%. It's nothing crazy. There's a lot more stocks year to date. If you look at, even Meta and all that are up way more. But the volatility of that 75%, I think, is more or less the story. So, yeah, we have 43% for Meta. We have Google, 27%. So the returns in and of themselves, Nvidia is going to be something insane. Yeah, 115%. So it's not even like it's that crazy of a stock that has many hundreds of percent gains. It's just the fact that I think everybody's picking this up as a story. So my opinion on the matter, trade it. It if you believe like he does that they're going to turn the company around, that's not something that's going to happen overnight. That's going to be a long drawn out process where they're going to have to announce new plans. He was very open the fact that he had no insider information in the company, which if he did, I'm sure he would say is as closely as getting looked at by regulators. And all in all, it was a non-event. So we see GameStop, selling off a little bit here, down 35% today. So Now that I have summarized that for the three people that are living under a rock, do you have anything to add to the GameStop movement this week, Steve?
Well, as a trader, we spoke a couple weeks ago about how I did get lucky in GameStop and AMC, and I was up at 2 a.m. taking profits on half my position. So I was in position in GameStop again yesterday, 2 days ago, basically around 28, 27, 28 basis points basis, and rode all day yesterday into the post market. And I said, I want to do again what this stock has already telegraphed to me that it might want to do. Set my alarm for 1 a.m. local, get up, watch the market open, and put a limit order in there around 79. Just try and catch maybe an overnight gap to see if it would do what it did last time. Lo and behold, it doesn't always work out that way. I woke up at 2 in the morning to a an offering,
Hmm.
which is really frustrating. If you've got control of the stock and it's moving higher. And yeah, I don't blame them for throwing an offering in, but it doesn't leave a good taste in a lot of people's mouth, especially when you rushed in the middle of the night to bump up your earnings scheduled date 7 days to take advantage of this. So as a
I
trader, it just feels like you're getting screwed coming and you're getting screwed going.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter what side. And then let me say, I was probably an idiot for hanging on to the live stream, because when this guy came on, when my first impression of him solidified in about 60 seconds, I was putting my stop order in for a break even trade. So
Yeah.
I'm not ashamed to admit I crushed it the first time, but this time it absolutely it got the best of me, and I wound up making no money, a complete round trip, and I'm frustrated. Um, I don't like these types of plays. I wanted to participate in it. I still believe there's something going on here, and I say that only because no other stock behaves like this. We can talk about the fundies all we want, and there's never going to be a headline that flashes and says, "Hey, everybody, psst, there's a lot of naked shorts in there." It's not how it works. I'm still convinced, unbeknownst to Michael's, not unbeknownst to Michael, but in disagreement with Michael, I'm still convinced there's something going on here. Where there's smoke, there's fire. But the intense volatility of the nature, again, just tells me that something is different this time. Different. And I'm just going to go and continue to say, I do believe there are naked shorts stuck in here. Again, I'm a Gen Xer and I have kind of a different view of the world than Michael does. I believe there are a lot of criminals and there's a lot of nefarious forces out there who will do what they can if they feel protected. And I think that's the underlying value, the underlying reason why this stock is so volatile. I don't think this type of volatility would happen with any other stock unless there was some real interesting hidden gems in there that are still being fleshed out. And that's my 2 cents.
My only counter to that would be, is there any other stock in the world where some guy goes live and gets has to be over 1 million people watching his stream? Is there any other stock out there with that kind of following? So,
No,
I think if there was naked shorts, they probably were flushed out the first time. They actually did a reverse split, so they had to count and audit every single share that exists. They didn't find anything there. AMC did the ape thing. They counted every share. They didn't find anything there. Um,
you're not going to count shares when there's swaps and there's counterparties on the third party markets. Those aren't reported. And so we'll never know. We'll never know. There's no reporting on that. All we can do is say, I'm scratching my head. How the hell is this thing so damn volatile? I've never
and
seen anything like it, Michael. I've been doing this a long time. Never seen anything like it.
I've seen pump and dumps all the time. Again, this one's a
This
little
isn't a
bit
pump and dump.
bigger.
This is beyond. This is beyond. This is a war of attrition that all of a sudden just got heated up again because the people that are in it can't get out. And I'm gonna stick with that. I'm not an ape. I don't own any, and I'm not gonna hold on to this. I'm gonna use it as a trade around. But I've never seen anything quite like this. And where there's smoke, there's fire. There's something going on in here.
So yeah, maybe
It's
we can
just what I
clarify
feel.
that. What do you mean not to get out? I'm looking at the dollar volume of GameStop today, and it traded $1.2 billion today. So far this week, It's traded $550 billion, and so far this year it's traded $500 billion. So
Those are just
how,
numbers to me. I see.
but how many
Let's see.
shorts
We've
would
got
have to
11.
exist to
It went
not get
eight
out?
times from $11 on the beginning of May
Yeah.
all the way up to $80 pre-market. That's an 8-time bagger in about 2 weeks. That is not normal. That's all I'm saying. That's
Not
not
normal,
normal.
but I'm just wondering the whole they can't get out, right? So for the last like 4 years, GameStop's been roughly where it was before the squeeze. Been 4 years. It's traded millions and millions, if not, I think billions. I think I was 2022, 2021. It traded like 250 billion shares. So like the scale of somebody who would need to be stuck in a position like that where billions of shares
It's
traded isn't enough
more
liquidity
than
to
one
get out.
person, I think. I think there's many groups that took advantage of a situation that used to work for them. But this time it's different. Why is it different? Because Roaring Kitty, for whatever reason, came out and had turned on the light, and you've got tens of thousands of millennials who are still pissed off from the Wall Street issues of 2008 when they occupied Wall Street. That hasn't gone away. And you listen to the story of a lot of these millennials, they're like, I'm not selling. I'm not going to get out. And so there's never been a period in time where you have a foundational base of bulls that are not going to get out for a unified reason, and that is they're calling the bluff of the machine and the system that's been working for them. Them meaning the sellers and the shorties and the hedgies up until this point.
Well,
Um,
just
Nothing's going to
one
change my mind until this is sorted out,
one
and it's
final
not sorted out.
comment for me, but that they don't have to sell, right? We've seen 100, there's only the float's only 300 million shares, right? So if all of them don't sell because there's been 150 million shares given or printed by the company that are made out of thin air this week, they don't have to sell, right? The company's selling for them. So again, to the only thing I care about is to our audience, don't get caught up with this kind of stuff. Even Steve, who seems to have some really strong
I'm not.
opinions
No.
based on
No.
things that he's reading, he's still not going to get caught up on it. So whatever you want to think and pontificate and have a beer with friends and debate back and forth, absolutely. If you're going to participate in this, you need to just at the end of the day, there's price action. If there is such a grand conspiracy that there is billions and more dollars of stocks that are hidden somewhere, you better believe that they're going to be able to sell more stock to get out of that position, or create stock, or do some sort of margin loan somewhere else, right? You can't have someone who is just so giant, or a number of people that are so giant but then also so fragile, right? That's so at the end of the day, if you're trying to play a David versus Goliath, just don't do that with your money. Just have a plan,
No,
choose a plan,
I still
and move
traded
forward,
it,
right?
and I mentioned on the onset how I traded it with a plan, with an
Yep.
entry, and then I feel like I got the rug pulled out from underneath me. It's not the last time, it's not the first time, but they got me. They got me. All right.
so so yeah, the and yeah, so again, just have a trade. You can take any trade you want in your entire life. Just have a plan, and have a plan when to get out. And just know that this thing's going down right now, right? And until
Yeah,
the next catalyst, it'll go down. I personally think, just me guessing about what's going to happen next. I full disclosure, I shorted a bunch this morning at kind of 44. I covered most of it
you
before the
did.
stream. Right now, I still have some short. But I'm definitely going to cover this by the end of the day because anything could happen with this. It'd be crazy to hold this thing short over the weekend.
Hey,
But I think,
let's look at some technicals real quick. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
yeah,
step on you.
I just going forward from this stream, I think the whole mystical, the dude was kind of hiding behind like memes, and then people were looking into the memes and trying to search for hidden meetings and blah blah blah. And then he just showed up, and he was like he always was. He was a Reddit nerd that likes to read balance sheets and believes in the company. So,
Well,
um,
he also showed a screenshot of his tremendous size, 5 million. Yeah,
yeah,
5 million shares of the common, and then he had access to another 12 million if he exercised the contracts he had,
yeah, but he doesn't have the
120,000
cash for that,
contracts.
unfortunately. So you'd have to get the cash somewhere else. He only had 20 million sitting in cash, so he wouldn't have enough to exercise all
So
those
yeah,
options.
so that was really the story that got everybody going. And so now that the secondary's been dumped and more shares have been just dropped into the all of that, it's literally it's chess. We're watching a chess game here. Excuse me. Quite honestly, I think it's it's move and counter move.
I just think, yeah, they raised the money. I if the CEO didn't raise the money, he should have been taken out back and shot. I think even Roaring Kitty agrees with that because he was talking about, again, his whole thing was about how he believes that the company can turn around. If your stock goes up 10x because some dude online tweeted stuff and you don't use that as an opportunity to raise capital to save your business that's losing $50 million a quarter, then you're insane. So, from a finance point of view, I think what Ryan Cohen did was absolutely the right move. You have to take that opportunity. If you're ever sitting there and your price just goes gangbusters, then you have to use that. Like, what else? Why does your stock price matter? Your stock price only matters if you're hurting and you need to raise money, right? That's the only time the
Would it not
company
have
cares about the
been
stock
maybe
price.
wise to let that play out a little bit more and then drop the secondary? Why so quick on the secondary in the middle of the night?
Only if you believe that there was going to be a continued move, right? And they have to do it in the middle of the night because I don't think you're legally allowed to do it when the market is open. I think that's a thing. I think it has to be filed after 5 p.m. and then get released after. Because if you believe that your price is inflated, you have to do the marketing then. I don't think they're there thinking that I bet you if you sat down and had a beer with Brian Cohen, he's not thinking that there's this other world that exists with the squeeze going on. I think he's looking at the data as he sees it and says, our price is probably a little frothy right now. Let me raise money. And if you're an actual GameStop believer, I think this is exactly what you want to see happen because now they've got, I think they'll have $3 billion of cash and only half a billion in debt. Like that puts them in a really strong cash position because their current business model doesn't work, right? The earnings reports year after year shows that. So they have to either buy someone or they have to spend a whole bunch of money and try to shift that company into something that makes sense. Again, they're Blockbuster with Netflix existing. They have to do something
Mhm.
else and they need the capital to do that. So yeah, I think it was totally the right move. Again, if you're planning on saving your company in the long run, you want to look at some
Um,
technicals.
yeah, I was going to say put up the 15-minute chart with my 130 and my 10 because I was going to say, like technically speaking, as I was saying, we don't want to be a hoper, but this is why I'm not in this stock right now. When obviously you got to take those pre-markets and post-markets off to kind of see what I'm seeing. But I talked about the pinch play using the 10 SMA on a 15-minute chart and the 130 SMA on a 15-minute chart, and they start to create what I call a pinch. And basically, in the 15-minute time frame right now, we're underwater here, so I wouldn't want to be like jumping back in at this point, even though it's pulled all the way back to the daily moving averages. The intraday stuff is looking tough on the 15-minute chart.
All right, here we are here. Move this over a little bit. But yeah, so you're talking about
Okay,
this
there you go.
pinch right here where this
Uh-huh.
15 minute,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. So that crossover coming down is the 10 SMA, and it's going to cross below that 130, which is a 5 day. And I think it's going to start to have its way with the price action. Once you get in that position on a midday chart, intraday chart, you're fighting the current if you want to be along, in my opinion. So I basically got out once it broke that. It just so happened to be my complete round trip point of entry. So I
So I can
watched a few
talk a,
thousand
a
dollars come and
little
go.
bit here about my short. So um, I'm more of a, if I do use an indicator, I love an anchored VWAP. Again, I think we've given Brian Shannon enough shout out here. We'll move these other ones. So this was basically the play for me. So the company is selling stock. Again, in the long run, I think it's the right move. In the short run, you're diluting shareholders, I think 25%. So if you owned 10,000 shares of the company, you now own 7,500 shares essentially of the same company. So when that's occurring and the thing's selling off all pre market, I just anchored a view app from that absolute high that happened yesterday. And my idea was on just a 5 minute chart. again, just not just taking shots here, right? I'm not going to go crazy on something like this. That we bounced off the open to this area right here. I looked at that and said, okay, we know that most Robinhood traders use market orders, and the little guys who are trading this stock use market orders a lot. And we also know there's a lot of hedge funds long this name. We know Renaissance Capital, there's a lot of 13Fs that have been filed. They're going to take advantage of a little bit of this opening volatility. So where's my shot? So just the anchored view up from all-time highs. As we came into that, I just basically just put a stop loss to get me in below the low of this candle. And when that triggered, I put my stop at the high of the day. Quickly flushed. Not gonna lie, didn't like the halts. It's unnerving. I generally don't day
Yeah.
trade volatile stuff like this, so it was not fun. So after that first halt, I covered quickly into the low of the days, most of the position. I still have some, but it's 25% of the original position,
Hmm.
and we've got 2 hours left in the day, and I will definitely close this by the end of the day. There's just no way. There's no risk management world for me where it makes any sense to hold this, because as we know, someone tweets, he pumps it up to all of his, now that we know, millions of followers. The scale of this man's reach, I don't think can be understated, because he tweets something, then you get Unusual Whales and you get CNN, and I was on CNBC a few times talking about it, so it just goes insanely viral, insanely quickly. So just make sure you're protecting yourself. If you're long, if you're short, make sure you're very much protecting yourself, because wouldn't shock me to see this. I wouldn't be surprised at all if this is 100 on Monday, just because, right, another kind of tweet storm commences. So I
Well, I
will be
hope
out by the
not.
end of the day for sure.
I mean, let's just talk about this because it's no fun. You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. 9 out of 10 times as a trader, I
Hmm.
went into this trade going for the effing jugular. And I told myself I'm going for the jugular all the way to 79. I didn't get it. So sometimes it just doesn't work out. Could I have, taken half when I wanted to? Yeah, that's why I'm a little mad at myself. Nobody ever wants to ride a full round trip back. But when you're going for the jugular, that's kind of what you're doing. It's like all or nothing. And that's what I did. So I was wrong.
Yeah, well, and if it worked the other way, where you sold half and then it went out, then that's the nature of that. You would have been kind of mad at yourself there as well. So yeah, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. All you can do is develop a plan and stick to it. Make sure that plan is based off sound price actions and logical things that you can kind of deal with, and then just take it as it comes, right? So I, you know, you got it the first
All
time.
right.
That's all that matters, right? So
That's true. I'm still up. I'm still net positive on this thing
it's
and
one of
AMC.
my
Let's look at
old
some
tr- yeah, one of my old
what's that?
trading mentors always said this is the only game in town where you can make a bunch of money one
Be
day
mad
and then be mad that the
that
thing
you didn't do better.
continued or something. It's crazy.
And that's why I didn't sell half. Sorry, that's why I didn't sell when it pulled back halfway because I thought the minute I sell this thing, Roaring Kitty's going to come on. It's going to rip, and he's going to say, "I'm just an idiot today."
Uh, Bitcoin selling
All
off
right, so we
there.
got some charts that people want to look at.
We do. Yeah, I had some other stuff lined up. The only thing I'll talk about real quick that I had lined up, nothing crazy in the news, but I was shocked that even though the market didn't do anything yesterday or the day before, the NAM sentiment, so this is basically sentiment of large traders and investment advisors, went down. I just thought I'd point that out to people, that people are getting bearish out there, even though price is not doing anything that really should make people bearish. Right? It's something's happening, a little downtick right here, but if we look overall, we're holding up right near highs. But people are getting bearish, and to me, when the general public or these investors right here, when these guys get bearish, I get a little bit more bullish. So again, just something interesting that I saw.
Yeah,
Generally, you
it's
see
a
this thing follow price. People get bearish when the price goes down and bullish when the price goes up. This is a bit of a divergence.
that's the fundamental roots of contrarianism right there. Exactly.
Yeah. It's like, why are you bearish? We're at all time highs. I hope you are bearish. Well, we're at all time highs.
Somebody explained it to me once like this. They just think of it as you're in a lifeboat and everybody's on one side of the lifeboat, and then all of a sudden, somebody realizes, hey, it might be better on the other side of the lifeboat. And then everybody rushes to the other side of the lifeboat. So if you can be that first person that kind of goes against the grain, sometimes you can get paid.
Yeah, it's just, I follow this, and sometimes you can make trades off of this sentiment data, generally only at extremes. If everyone is, like Steve was saying, if everyone's extremely bearish, it's probably time to buy in. If everyone's extremely bullish, it's probably time to lighten up some. But and that's neither the case right here. The data isn't, geez, keep losing this all my tabs. The data isn't extremely bearish or extremely bullish, but just the dramatic increase in bearishness while the market just remained at highs. Again, I just thought that was weird. But let's go through some chart requests. Just note, I'm using this new feature that we have here on Trade Ideas where you can actually,
Look at
on the
mine too.
web, you can create your own price alerts. You can create your own symbol lists. So I have a bunch of symbol lists here. Ones they will import from the downloaded version. So if you're on the downloaded version and you make an alert there, or sorry, you make a symbol list there, and then you want to take that on the go on your iPad or whatever, you can grab that here. So I have the symbols up. I'm just keeping one called Beyond the Headlines, and I'm adding here things that we either are going to talk about or your guys' chart requests. So it's just a nice, cool way for me to keep this up. And I've got ones where I'm creating portfolios or names that I want to watch for when I'm on the go as well. So check that out. Just part of Trade Ideas. You can actually access that from the free version, I do believe, if you want to give that a shot. But for real time data, make sure you're subscribing. Again, you can find that over at Trade Ideas. So we got a couple here. So the first one we'll go
Mhm.
through is just HLN. And I have the comments up here. I'll read through them in case there's any news.
Mm,
And it's just, I
wow.
have a chart request. The daily chart reminds
Huh.
me of a wave since nudge to the greedy side. So basically, this guy is looking for a breakout on this
Look,
HL.
zoom out. You got to zoom out more for this one. This is the longest protracted
Ooh,
consolidation I've ever seen.
wow.
This is I'm looking at the daily, and you basically have a definitive channel between 8 as your floor
Yep.
and 875 as your ceiling.
So not very
So
volatile. What do these guys do? Do you know?
mm,
Personal healthcare products for North America and Latin America. Okay.
here's what I would do. I'm just going to put a price alert at 870, and if it goes off, then that's telling me in real time, hey, this thing might be trying to break out of this extendedly long channel. And right now, it's bleeding to the high end of it. I think that's kind of what he was referencing. It
Mm-hmm.
might be setting up for an attempt. But if you're long here, you're still hoping that it's going to break out. What I would do is, maybe be long half if that's what you want to do, and then wait for confirmation on a close above 875. Then I would add to it. That's how I would play it.
Yeah, I'm gonna fully agree there. For me, you just have to wait for the breakout. It's one of those. Yes, you're gonna pay a worse price if you wait for the breakout than trying to front run it. But this is a weekly chart, so we're going back to the beginning of 2023 here, and just kind of nothing's occurred in this name. And dead money is almost as bad as losing money, right? We're traders, we're investors. If we're sitting in something for months or years that's not moving, we might as well have taken a couple small trades and a couple small losses and then another couple trades and a couple big losses, right? We don't want to over trade, but if we're just sitting there and then we're not trading at all, and I really don't think that's the move. So yeah, I agree with Steve here. This thing's just kind of consolidating sideways. You gotta wait. You gotta wait for something to occur. If you want to have some, but like Steve was mentioning, your best is to set an alert and move on with your life. The alert will get triggered when something happens, which is the beauty of the technology world that we live in. Back when me and Steve started trading, there wasn't a button that you could press to say, shake my digital watch when the price hits this price. So yeah, just set your alerts and kind of wait on. So next one here is Pan W, Palo Alto Networks.
Yeah, I know Nancy Pelosi liked this one at one point.
So big
Just had to
gap
throw that in
down.
there.
So this was probably one earnings report and this gap down,
Yeah,
and then it looks like it had another
yeah.
earnings report and it gapped down a little bit again.
hmm
What do you think of this guy?
Well, I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt because it's above its 50-day moving average. I'm a moving average guy, as you know. It's above its 200. It's above its 50. It's getting kind of ensnared in the other two. But if it can build a base right here at this level, which is clearly definitive on your screen, if it can move up higher out of that, I would say if it can move up and close above 305 and definitively hold a close above 305, you could probably look at that last pullback as a higher low.
Yeah, for me, I'm looking at this one, and it's a networking company. Um, all of other tech is doing fantastically. This one on the long-term chart, it's no slouch. Certainly not a bad
Um,
one. But this earnings report, something terrible happened here, and then this next earnings report wasn't great either. So there's some trades that people make where they'll buy as it goes into a pretty pronounced gap like this and then target the other side of that gap. Maybe that makes sense. For me, this is as a relative strength, relative weakness guy when it comes to tech. This seems like relatively weak compared to a lot of the tech out there. So I'm not too interested in that guy with Palo Alto. I think you've got a lot overhead. Anytime I just look at this, I say, okay, there's a whole bunch of people who are probably buying up here before earnings, and now they're dramatically
they just
underwater,
want to get back to even.
and when they gets up they get back to even, right? Same thing you see in a lot of these like Peloton or AMC or even GameStop, for example. They People have been underwater these things for years. If you don't think, I always think Peloton's the perfect example, right? There are people probably still holding from 150 in Peloton. So any up move this stock has at all, you have all of these people that are just looking to get out at some profit. So uh, e- I think there's an easier life to be had, kind of looking the other way. Okay, let's go back to here, and then
You got one
just
more?
have the list here. We do. Oh, SMR was, I put that on the list for me, and we have Snowflake. Oh, yuck. Okay. Well, I guess that's my summary on it. I'm not buying
Yeah.
stocks that
There's nothing
for
good about that chart.
for
We will not give you I'm zooming way out here, though, by the way. We will not give you, fluff and positive, cheer, rah, rah, if we see something we don't like. And the idea is to get the value of that and say, well, those guys didn't like it. Maybe I should reassess, but we're not telling you what to do.
Mhm, exactly. No, we talked about relative strength before. You have stocks that are hitting new all-time highs. The market's near new all-time highs. It's been an uptrend for a long period of time, and this one just can't get off the bench. So unless you're playing a revision to the mean kind of play, maybe we should bring Andy on one day. He loves to buy these oversold ones, but
Mm,
they're just for quick bounces and to move on. It gapped it. Like, this is one earnings report. So you can see earnings gap down. So the company says, this is
mhm,
what our company's financial are. And the market goes, ooh, and then sells it off. And then we have another earnings report right here where it goes, this is how we're doing financially. And then the market goes, ooh. So I don't know anything about the financials behind this. It's not something I study. I just look at that and I go, that's not something I personally want to be involved in at all.
I see two levels, 120 and 110. When you look left, way left on the chart, those are two levels of support in the past that this thing just might have, a hell bent um, idea to get down there. You may get a relief bounce between now and then,
Hmm.
but when you're this low, we're talking 52-week lows down here. It looks like you're going to be looking left and trying to see what's my worst case possible. And 120 and 110 seem like worst case possible for now.
Yeah, and it's not something I would do because the when you're buying something that's selling like this, you have so much headwind. But there's nothing wrong with what Steve was just saying here. You pick a point, and if it gets to that point, you buy some, and if it breaks that point, you get out. You pick up some at 120, and if it fails, then you move on. And then down here at 110, maybe you pick up some at 110. If it fails, you move on. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just I want to kind of have those tailwinds in anything that I trade. I just want to, have walk moving forward on my trade to know that there are people buying the thing that I'm buying. But now the gentleman did say long or short, so maybe he was looking at snow short. In which case, uh, I almost think
In
you're
which case, yeah, and in which case there's a 10 moving average. If this thing bounces up to 140, that's probably the place to take a short. I would not short in the hole down here, meaning do not short new lows. Wait for a day or two of a relief bounce and then fade that.
Yeah, because as we were saying, there is these support points, $10 and $20 under price. So those could be problems. So you don't want to short a stock that's down this much into support. Doesn't mean you want to buy it here. So you'll notice this happens a lot, I think, and it's an important lesson to leave people on. A lot of we will not just from the show, but a lot of things that me and Steve do, we'll get chart requests and say, should I buy or sell this stock? And I find, I don't know, I think Steve will agree with me on this. 9 times out of 10, it's neither, right? Like I wouldn't buy snow and I wouldn't
No
short
man's
snow.
land.
It's just it's in the middle of a range. Same with the first one, that HLN. I wouldn't take a bet against that. I'm not going to take a bet for that. It's just there's not anything going on there. Most traders you'll find, and if you listen to us long enough, and if you continue to listen to us, we are setup traders, right? So Steve has
Hmm.
his 10-day moving average, and I have the anchored VWAP and things that I use like that. So uh, we're not looking at a chart and then trying to predict which way it's going to happen, and that's not the key to our success. Basically, we have setups that we look for, and when those setups occur, we take action. So a couple of those are in no man's land. Make sure, again, one of the pieces of advice that I got all the time was make the stock do something before you get involved, right? If you're looking to buy it, make it break out of something. If you're looking to short it, make it bounce to an area and struggle, or something like that. But just make it do something before you get involved. So, okay, Steve, anything else to leave the children with?
Well, no, as we sign off here, both AMC and Game are definitively under that pinch. They're having a very hard time. They're probably going to go back and retest lows here midday. I'm happy to be out. I'm just going to mentally move on to the next event.
Yeah, and I'm on the corner of my screen watching Bitcoin, which I had been watching for a breakout, and it fallen
Yeah,
apart as well. So
I just
keep
took a look at my XRP, which we talked about last week. It's on sale now.
Yeah, it's I don't know what happened, but we started up this podcast and Bitcoin just completely fell out of bed. So anyway, that
Sure did.
let's see what happens when you guys are watching this on Sunday. Maybe maybe we're
Okay.
back at all-time highs, so you can bring up the charts then. So as always, if you made it this long in the podcast, please, give a like and a share, and let everyone know. It's slow news week, but with GameStop gave us a lot, enough to talk about anyway. Uh, and yeah, the more you share and like and tell your friends and all of that, the more the algorithm suggests what we do to other people. So if you find value, other people may find value. So please do that. And without further ado, I'll see you guys next time.